This is Zachary Young for the third CSE 3200 homework assignment. The goal of this assignment was to create a layout using the constraint layout editor as opposed to the normal editor and using things such as linear layouts. I'm here in the XML version, or the XML viewer, the code viewer of the activity.xml file, and I'm looking at the default constraint layout, and over here I have the 5 images: arrow down, arrow left, arrow right, arrow up, and the controller. I'm going to go to the design window, and I'm first going to add from the comment section an image view, and that's going to contain the controller. And I'm going to add some constraints to it, one on the top, one on the left, and one on the right. I'm also going to go to the attribute window. That constraint didn't attach. I'm also going to go to the attribute window and change the top constraint to be 200. And I'm going to resize the image. This can be done manually, but I found in practice that a size that looked close to the given layout was 130 dp. I'm then going to start adding buttons. First is the top button. So this button is going to have as its icon, well, first I'm going to delete the text, and then as its icon I'm going to set it as arrow up. Now the problem here is that the arrow is not centered in the button, but if I go down into all settings to the icon specific settings, I'm going to set the icon gravity to text start and change the icon padding to 0 dp, which should bring the arrow center. I'm also going to add the constraints to this button, one on the top and one on each side, and then I'm going to change the top constraint to be 70. Next up is the left button. Similar process, delete the text, set the icon to be down here, the icon settings have disappeared. I'm going to try deleting the button and re-adding another one. Buttons, and that button has disappeared. Try one more time. Button. I'm instead going to try copying the top button. That should do it for me. And okay. Now what I can do is go into the settings of this copied button and change the icon itself to be the left arrow. And the constraints are also a bit different, so I'm going to go ahead and delete those. The side one stands, but the top has to go to the bottom of the top button, and I'm going to add the bottom one in later when I add the bottom button, but the left constraint has to be 70. And there's that. I'm then going to just paste that again. Actually, I'm going to copy the left button this time and paste it back in, and then drag this second one over here and use that to create the right button. I'm going to set its icon as the right arrow, and then I'm going to delete the constraints and recreate them. So this one has to have a constraint on the top, the bottom, and the side. Again, I'm going to add the bottom one in later, but the top one goes to the bottom of the top button, and the right one goes to the right side, and it is also set to 70. Last but not least is the bottom button, or the down button. Actually, I'm going to copy the top button one more time and drag it down here, and I'm going to change the icon of this button, which should be up here, to be the down arrow. And as before, I'm going to delete the constraints and re-add them. And I should be able to drag this out here, view this constraint, and delete it. Okay. Oh, I've actually accidentally mixed up the buttons, so I'm just going to switch them back. So the top button goes down here. I don't know why it continues to move like that, but the top button goes right there. Technical difficulties. Just reset the constraints on the top one. The top to the bottom of the image view, and the sides to the sides of the constraint view, and the top is 70. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete this button and reset the constraints on these two buttons just to even things out. That should be top to button 10 bottom. That's correct. And then the top of this button should be to button 10 bottom. Okay, and I just have to play around with these constraints a little bit just to reset them. That should be 70. That is correct at 70, but this should be, I believe, match parent, which is 0dp, and yes, that's correct. Okay, so now I'm going to copy the left button one more time, bring the screen back, and drag the copy down here to be the down button. So I'm going to change the icon of this button to be the down arrow. I am going to remove the constraints so I can recreate them. That sent it up here, and that's okay. Where did the button? And the button has disappeared. Alright, try it one more time. I'm just going to copy the left button, bring it down here, and instead of deleting the constraints this time to prevent any errors, I'm just going to change the icon one more time to be down arrow. And then I'm going to edit the constraints. First, I'm going to add one that anchors it to the right side of the constraint view. And then I'm going to go up here. These should both be 0, which is correct. And then this is supposed to be constraint 276 down from the top. I believe that's the error. These are supposed to be wrap content. And I'm missing one more thing. These two buttons, the left and right, need to be constrained to, at the bottom, to the bottom button. So that is the complete layout. I'm now going to build the file. Build is done, and I'm going to run it. And as you can see, everything is successfully constrained and oriented with respect to the other objects. And if I tab away from the emulator for a second, just hide that, just to show one more time, the image view is constrained on the sides and 200 from the top. The top button is constrained on the sides and 70 from the image view. The left button is constrained 70 from the left side, top and bottom to the top and bottom buttons respectively, and the right is constrained 70 from the right side, top and bottom, and the top and bottom buttons.